So in this video we are going to discuss about the agents of pollination. So when we take the agents of pollination, it can be abiotic agents or biotic agents. So abiotic agents is nothing but wind and water, whereas biotic agents is animal. According to biotic agents, when we compare biotic and biotic agents is used by the majority of flowering plants, whereas abiotic agents is not much used when it is compared to biotic agents. So it is used in a very small proportion because its chance factor, because when it is transmitted by wind or water, it is a very question of chance matter to whether it is completely done or not. So when we understand that it is a chance factor, then we can clearly understand that there might be some loss of pollen grains that are transmitted by wind and water. So to compensate this loss, or to compensate this uncertainties associated with the loss of pollen grains, the flowering plants produce large amount of pollen when it is compared to the number of ovules that are available for pollination. So number of ovules is not as equal as pollen, but the number of pollen is when compared to number of ovules, it is in a greater number. So now pollination by wind. So when we take pollination by wind, it is very common in grasses. That is, it is an abiotic one, and it is very common in grasses. So here it is common in grasses, and also it is the common among biotic pollination. So abiotic pollinations, it is very common. So here the characteristics of pollen grains may be light and non-sticky, so that only it can fly easily through the wind, or it can easily float throughout the water. So if it is sticky, it is very difficult to move. So light and sticky. And the next thing is the flowers will be with exposed stamens and large feathery stigma. So because of this characteristic, it can trap the airborne pollen grains very easily. So this kind of arrangement or this kind of structure is for plants which are pollinated by wind. They are exposed stamens, feathery stigma, and the pollen grains will be light and non-sticky. So when we take the wind pollinated flowers, there is each ovule, it has a particular thing, right? So it has each ovule in each single ovule in each ovary, and has a numerous small flowers, but these flowers will be packed into an inflorescence. So now pollination by water. So when we take pollination by water, it is completely rare in flowering plants. Here it is limited up to 30 genera, and among 30, most of them will be monocotyledons. So here we already know that water is a mode of transport for male gametes. So for lower plants, examples are algae, bryophytes, and pteridophytes. So some examples of water pollinated plants are, when we take fresh water, we can take Vallisneria and Hydrilla. When we take marine sea grasses, it is Zostera. So for not all water plants, so not every aquatic organisms use water for pollination. In a majority of aquatic plants like water hyacinth and lily, insects, otherwise wind is the pollinating agent of pollination, as how it takes place in land. So now it is Vallisneria. So when we take Vallisneria, here the female flower is above the level of water with a long stalk. So from this we can identify that these pollen grains will be released on the surface of the water, because the flower is above the level of water. So here it is carried passively by the water current. So when we take sea grass, here the female flower is submerged inside the water. So here then the pollen grains will be released inside the water, and here it will be carried inside the water. So when it is carried inside the water, the characteristics, that is the structure of the pollen grain, will be long and ribbon like, and it will be since it is inside the water, it should have a protecting coat from getting wet. So it has it is protected from wetting by the mucilaginous covering. So when we compare both wind and water pollinated flowers, every flowers will not they will not be very colorful. That is, they won't attract they will not be much colorful, and they do not produce nectar. So no smell will be there, no color will be there, no attractive colors will be there. So now pollination by animals. So when we compare the pollination with animals, when here the majority of flowering plants use a range of animals. So here I have given you some pollinating agents like bees, butterflies, flies, beetles, wasps, ant, moths. So for birds it is sunbirds and hummingbirds and bats. So these are the common pollinating agents. Here bees is the dominant one. We may think that only smaller plants will involve as pollinating agents, but here larger animals like primates like lemurs and arboreal rodents like tree dwelling and reptiles like garden lizard, gecko lizard also are also act as pollinators in some species. So these are larger animals and these are small animals which takes place in the process of pollination or acts as the pollinating agents. So here the insect pollinated flowers will be large, colorful, fragrant and rich in nectar. So when compared to abiotic species, the wind and water, the flowers will be not very colorful, and at the same time they will not be producing nectar. So here the flowers have very small and they form a inflorescence by the combination of many number of flowers formed together to form an inflorescence. So in these flowers attract animals by their color and fragrance. And at the same time, when the flowers are pollinated by flies and beetles, they secrete foul odor so that it can attract animals to feed on them. And the mates, that is the usual floral rewards are the pollen grains and the nectar. So in certain cases, the floral rewards provide safe place to lay eggs in some species, not in every species but in some species. For example, Amorphous, the tallest plant, and it has up to height up to 6 feet. So now another example is species of moth and plant yucca. So these both can only join together to complete their life cycle. So if they not join together, both of the life cycle may be incomplete. So here the moth deposits its egg on the locule of the ovary, whereas the flower in turn gets pollinated by moth. So by this circulatory process, they complete their life cycle with each other. So here the larvae of the moth come out of the eggs and as the seeds start developing. So here the moth has a larva. So this from this larva they come out of the eggs. As the seed starts developing, they will also start developing. Thank you.